Lily sat by the window of her small apartment in Boston. The city lights flickered outside, painting tiny reflections on her coffee cup. It had been 6 months since her divorce, and every night still felt heavy, like she was carrying a silent storm inside her. She used to live in a big house with her ex-husband, Mark, a man who once promised her forever. They had dreams together, traveling, building a family, growing old side by side. But promises are fragile things. Sometimes they break quietly. The end didn't come suddenly. It was a slow fade. The long silences, the empty dinners, the way Mark stopped looking at her the same way. Lily tried to fix it. She read relationship books, planned date nights, smiled even when she wanted to cry. But love can't survive if only one person is fighting for it. One winter morning, Mark said the words that shattered everything. "I think we both deserve to be happy separately." And just like that, 10 years of marriage ended with one cold sentence. For weeks, Lily couldn't sleep. She walked around her apartment like a ghost, holding old photos, asking herself where she went wrong. Friends called, her sister visited, but nothing seemed to reach the pain sitting deep in her chest. One night, she opened her old journal, the one she hadn't touched in years. She found her old handwriting. Dream, open a bakery one day. Lily stared at that line for a long time. A bakery. It was something she always wanted long before Mark. She loved baking, the smell of bread, the sweetness of cakes, the quiet joy of creating something warm. The next morning, she walked to a small cafe near her apartment and asked the owner if she could work there, even part-time. The woman, Mrs. Green, smiled and said, "We could use someone like you. When can you start?" The first week was hard. Her hands hurt from kneading dough, and she made a few mistakes. But for the first time in months, Lily felt alive. The smell of coffee, the sound of customers chatting, it reminded her that life was still moving, even if hers had paused for a while. Every morning at 5 a.m., she woke up before sunrise, tied her apron, and walked through the quiet streets. She started baking muffins, croissants, and pies. She began to smile again, small, hesitant smiles that grew with each passing day. One afternoon, an old man came into the cafe. He looked tired and asked for a cup of coffee and a slice of apple pie. When he took his first bite, he closed his eyes and said softly, "This tastes like my wife's pie. She passed away last year. Thank you for reminding me of her." Lily smiled with tears in her eyes. It was a simple moment, but it meant everything. For the first time, her work had touched someone's heart. A few months later, Mrs. Green decided to retire and offered to sell the cafe. Lily panicked at first. She didn't have enough savings. But something inside her whispered, "Don't give up now." She spent nights researching business loans and even called her sister for help. With a mix of courage and fear, she applied for a small loan and bought the cafe. She renamed it Lily's Corner. On the opening day, she decorated the place with white flowers and little candles. The first customers came, neighbors, friends, and a few curious strangers. Lily stood behind the counter, nervous but proud. When the first batch of cinnamon rolls sold out, she realized something beautiful. She didn't need a husband or a big house to feel complete. She just needed herself. Months turned into a year. Lily's Corner became a cozy spot where people came for comfort, not just food. There was laughter, music, and stories shared over steaming mugs of coffee. One rainy evening, a man walked in, tall, kind eyes, a gentle smile. His name was Ethan. He was a writer who lived nearby and often came to work on his laptop. They talked about books, music, and life. He never asked about her past, but he listened when she spoke. There was no rush, no pressure, just warmth. Lily found herself laughing again, not out of politeness, but because she was truly happy. One Sunday morning, Ethan brought her a small gift, a notebook. On the first page, he wrote, "For the woman who turned her pain into something beautiful." Tears filled Lily's eyes. She realized that she wasn't the same woman who once cried herself to sleep. She was stronger, softer, and braver. She had rebuilt her world, piece by piece. Years later, Lily's Corner became famous in Boston for its homemade pies and the warmth of its owner. Tourists took pictures, and locals called it the heart of the neighborhood. Whenever people asked about her success, Lily smiled and said, "It all started after my life fell apart. Sometimes, losing everything is how we find ourselves." And that was the truth. Because Lily's story wasn't about heartbreak, it was about rebirth. Moral of the story: no matter how broken life feels, there is always a new beginning waiting, if you have the courage to take the first step.